We cannot allow the United States to proclaim itself as some kind of supreme judge, a judge which alone bears the right to invade any country, to label culprits, to hand down and to enforce punishments irrespective of notions of international law, sovereignty, and non-intervention. Those are strong words. They sound like the kind of thing American leaders used to say when condemning rogue states or dictatorships. But those words didn't come from an American president. They came from the permanent representative of Russia to the United Nations. And he wasn't talking about a dictatorship. He was talking about us. He was talking about the United States of America. One of the most dangerous things that can happen in a democracy is when its citizens start thinking that history simply does not apply to them. It is the moment when people hear words like authoritarianism or fascism and they immediately tune out. They think that that was another country, that it was another time, that it could never happen here. But it is happening here, and it is happening right now. And it isn't happening just because one man at the top is unhinged. It is happening because the very systems we rely on to protect us are being taken apart. The very institutions built to inform us and hold power accountable are being rebuilt to serve him. Our media, our public health agencies, our law enforcement, our foreign policy, and most importantly, our checks and balances. They are all being rewritten to expand his control and to keep the MAGA movement in power indefinitely. And this is happening with the full backing of the corrupt people helping him do it. Recently, the United Nations held an emergency meeting about the United States. Not about Russia, not about Iran, not about North Korea, about us, about the United States of America. Our allies and even our adversaries warned that we have crossed a line. They weren't reacting to a mean tweet or a controversial speech. They were reacting to what we are actually doing. They are reacting to how far we have already gone. And here's the part that should concern every single one of us. Russia wasn't wrong in what they said. It sounded exactly like something we used to say. That's how far we've fallen. We are now so far removed from the norms we once defended that our enemies are literally throwing our own words back at us. And the scariest part is that might be the point. There's something else we need to sit with even if it makes us uncomfortable. When Russia shows up at the UN and uses the language of international law and restraint, it does not mean they have had a change of heart. It means that they know exactly what they are doing. Authoritarian regimes thrive on confusion. They do not need to win a war in the traditional sense. They just need to destabilize everyone else. And we need to ask ourselves, is this all coordinated? Could this be a setup that both countries knew would unfold this way? Could it be that Russia is trying to look like the responsible adult in the room right before making their own move? Or could it be something even more predictable? Could this be the moment when one strongman decides to throw another strongman under the bus? Because authoritarians never stay loyal. They stay useful to each other. And once they stop being useful to each other, they let them burn. We have seen this happen to Trump before. We have watched how these global strongmen flatter him. They play him. They use him to weaken America from the inside. And he never even sees it coming. He does not realize he's being outmaneuvered. He thinks that they respect him when the reality is that they are just using him. And now that he is becoming more of a liability than an asset, they are positioning themselves to walk away clean. They'll let him take the fall. They will watch him destabilize his own country, do the dirty work for them, and they'll benefit from the damage he is doing here even as they cut him loose. But what we do know for a fact is this. Russia has spent years flooding our country with anti-vaccine lies. They have pumped anti-science disinformation and chaos campaigns into our social media feeds. These campaigns were designed to make Americans mistrust the very systems that protect us. And make no mistake, they do not spread the same lies at home. They save it for us. And now they're simply watching our own government finish the job for them while giving themselves cover to pretend they are the ones defending stability. This is where we are now. We are in deep, and we have already crossed the line. This is not the lead up for something worse. This is the something worse. We have left democracy behind. What we are living through now is the next stage. This is full authoritarian consolidation. The systems are already changing. The damage is already happening. When you look at all of these pieces together, the propaganda, the power grabs, the betrayal of our allies, the rewards for loyalists, the control of information, it becomes clear that we have entered the most dangerous phase yet. To simplify it, we are now in the consolidation phase of an authoritarian fascist regime. And the clearest proof isn't just what's happening in Venezuela, it's what happened after we invaded. And it is also how little backlash it faced within our own borders. In the days since the raid, Trump hasn't acted like a president managing a global crisis. He has acted like a CEO closing a business deal. He openly discussed Venezuela's oil reserves. He even suggested that the American taxpayers could cover the oil companies' costs so that these companies could extract profits without any risk. We have seen versions of this before. Think back to the Iran-Contra affair. That was when the Reagan administration secretly sold arms and secretly funneled the profits to right-wing militants. They bypassed Congress. They justified it as a mission to fight communism and free hostages. But in the shadows, allies and enablers benefited financially. It was a serious abuse of power inside a functioning democracy. But this is different. This isn't just about profit. It's also about power. Authoritarian regimes don't invent new tactics. They take old ones that worked inside democracies and push them further. And they push them with no limits, with no oversight, and with no intention of preserving the systems that once held them back. The public is given the language of security and freedom, while the benefits flow upward to donors and cronies. But this time, the goal isn't just money. It's about permanent power. The world sees it, and so should we. The global reaction made that abundantly clear. Latin America leaders from Colombia to Mexico condemned the raid as a violation of sovereignty. The UN Secretary General warned that it sets a dangerous precedent. He said he is deeply concerned about the possible intensification of instability in the region. That warning carries weight, especially when you place it in its proper historical context. This moment mirrors the collapse of global restraint in the 1930s. Back then, the League of Nations was created after World War I to preserve peace through collective security, but it failed to act against early actions of aggression by fascist regimes. That failure allowed fascist normalization to take hold before the world understood the cost. The United Nations was created in its place to prevent history from repeating itself. But when institutions meant to restrain power are ignored or paralyzed, authoritarian behavior accelerates. And this is not being confined to Venezuela alone. Trump's threats towards Mexico and Colombia and Cuba echo a long pattern of U.S. intervention in Latin America, usually under the pretext of national security. But in this context, it is different. This is not about foreign policy as usual. This is about power consolidation. And I know I keep saying that, but it is so important to understand. Even Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum's refusal to allow U.S. troops inside her country is not defiance. It is self-preservation. She sees what this is. She knows what happens when powerful authoritarian governments begin exerting military and political pressure on their neighbors. In 1939, Hitler invaded Poland under the false pretense of self-defense. He claimed German speakers were under threat. It was a tactic designed to justify expansion and silence the opposition. It was eerily similar to echoes to Trump's almost forgotten claims of Christians being persecuted in Africa and elsewhere. That move in 1939 was another step towards World War II. It exposed how authoritarian leaders use fear and fabricated threats to justify aggression. Just 1 year later, he turned west and occupied France with claims of restoring order and protecting national interests. The pattern repeats: destabilize, control, and exploit. In our own time, Vladimir Putin used similar rhetoric to justify the annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. He claimed he was protecting people, but the true goal was clear. He did this to restore influence, silence democracy, and control resources through force. Trump's posture towards Latin America now mirrors these same strategies. And while the spotlight stays on military raids and foreign policy, the same machinery is being quietly turned inward. This includes public health. Recently, the Trump regime abruptly overhauled the childhood vaccine schedule. They removed routine protections without the normal CDC advisory process. The decision came from political appointees known for rejecting scientific consensus. They do not believe in evidence-based medicine. This is not about choice or freedom. This is about breaking trust in expertise. Authoritarian regimes have always targeted medicine and science because a population that trusts evidence is harder to control. In Nazi Germany, medical institutions were politicized to justify ideology. When science becomes subordinate to loyalty, people get sick, they die, and those that survive stop believing anything at all. That confusion is the goal. Information control follows the same pattern. Recently, the board for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting voted to dissolve the organization after Congress stripped its funding. This marks the formal and final ending to the last independent media ecosystem in our country. CPB funded NPR and PBS and more than 1,500 local stations. Many of these were in communities with no other reliable news source. They also were the ones to deliver them urgent weather warnings. This is not about saving money. CPB's entire budget was a tiny fraction of federal spending. This was about removing nonpartisan information from the public square. History is unequivocal on this. Hitler criminalized independent journalism and labeled the press the enemy of the people. The MAGA movement isn't innovating, it is just copying. When people lose access to shared facts, authoritarianism becomes much easier to sell. You might be asking yourself if we could really be this far gone already. Could it really be happening again here and in our lifetime? And the answer is yes. And it's terrifying because it doesn't feel like how we were taught it would feel. There's been no single moment of collapse. There was no sudden announcement that the Constitution had been shredded. It happened slowly. It happened in ways that were easy to explain away. It doesn't feel like dictatorship because we're still going to work. We're still living a seemingly normal life because the people that are doing this to us have learned from the mistakes of others. They don't take everything at once. They take it piece by piece. They take it until the world shifts beneath our feet and we can't remember when the last time the ground felt stable. That is why it is so easy to doubt what we're all feeling and seeing. That's why people keep asking, is it really that bad? Because they're still waiting for the moment that makes it undeniable. But that moment isn't coming. That moment already happened. That is what makes this phase the most dangerous of all. And if you're feeling unsettled or heartbroken or lost, it's not because you are imagining things. It's because you still have your eyes open. And in times like these, that's a form of courage. And that's where we are now. And history is very clear about what comes next if this continues unchecked. And I know this sounds stark because it is stark. This is what authoritarian consolidation looks like. And Congress is acting like it's business as usual. It cannot be business as usual because at this point, they are the only institution left that can do something. And by they, I mean the Democratic members of Congress. The Republicans have made their choice. They have tied themselves to a man unraveling in public as he sells out his country. The Democrats still have a chance to fight, and we need to demand that they do. That means no more backroom deals, no more compromise, no more pretending that anything else matters right now. Nothing should get done. They should be sounding every alarm. They should be flooding every channel. They should be refusing to move another inch. They should be camped out on the Capitol steps broadcasting live from their own offices. They should be walking out of committees in protest. They should be calling out every Republican by name, not in quiet tones, but directly. They need to say, "This is on you. You are aiding the downfall of the United States government." And then they need to remind them that they could stop it and that they're choosing not to. And then they need to be very direct. You will be remembered like the Nazi sympathizers were, because that's what this moment demands. We need to call and email and write to every single one of them. We need to show up at our Congress members' offices and their district offices. We need to knock on their doors peacefully and relentlessly. This is the part where we find out who's going to stand for what is left of our democracy. And we find out who is going to fold under the weight of fascism. The time to speak softly is over. The time to act is now. If you've made it this far, we're probably on the same page and on the same side of history. I'm working hard to spread this message and reach as many people as possible. So if you can, please take a moment and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment. The algorithm likes that. For all of my daily posts, you can find me on Substack by searching Heather Delaney Reese, and I've included a link below. And remember, no matter how dark the days get, I'll be here with you, and we will always have hope for America. I'll see you tomorrow.